It's official. Drought is now gripping the entire state and intensifying. Newly released information from the National Weather Service shows parts of far western Oklahoma slipping into the worst category of drought for the second straight year. Conditions around the rest of the state are deteriorating as well as we suffer through day after day of intense heat and little or no rain.
Fluffy white clouds float over Jonathan Scheffel's Mays County farm. For a long time, clouds haven't brought what his land needs most.
It just seems like we can't get a rain. It just splits and goes around us every time it gets close.
Here, like much of Oklahoma, pastures are bone dry.
It just crumbles under your feet.
Soybeans that should be knee-high and lush are instead ankle-high, thin, and likely to die without at least some soaking rains over the next couple of weeks.
Last year at this time, from July 26, 2011, almost half the state was covered in exceptional drought, the worst drought category that there is. Looking last week, here is in this picture from July 17th, and we didn't have exceptional drought anywhere in the state. Moving to this week, after a week of little rainfall and exceedingly high temperatures, high 90s, around 100 across a large part of the state, we really deteriorated as far as drought conditions go. And now we can see that in western Oklahoma, we have a little bit of the exceptional drought that's now starting to creep back in, and half the state is in the worst two categories of drought, from extreme to exceptional drought now.
Meteorologist Nicole McGavick with the National Weather Service says rainfall totals for the past month are way below normal.
Here's the Panhandle, western Oklahoma, and over into the eastern part of the state. We can see there's a large portion that has received less than 25%. That's the red. And the dark red spots are less than 5% of the normal rainfall for the last 30 days.
In an average year, areas in far western Oklahoma get 10 to 15 inches of rain between January and July. Moving east, the amounts gradually increase to about 35 inches of rain for the far southeast part of the state.
So far this year, the Panhandle's only received about 5 to 10 inches of rain. The southeast part of the state still has seen more, around 25 inches of rain. But when we look at the percent of normal, we can see that much of the state has received less than 75% of the normal rainfall for this time from January through July.
Oklahoma Agriculture Secretary Jim Reese says a lack of rain is affecting some, but not all crops.
It's the summer crops, the soybeans and the milo, that are still developing that were hurt worse. The corn was hurt from this late drought in the last couple, 2 or 3 weeks. But in general, the corn crop is still going to be hopefully good, hopefully average.
Reese is quick to add, this dry spell is vastly different from last year.
We are in a drought. We have a lot of areas that are in extreme drought, but in comparison to last year, it really doesn't compare. Last year we clearly had the hottest summer in the history of any state in America, and the driest summer of any state in America. So to compare that with this year, it's really not comparable.
The drought of 2011 started in the fall of 2010 and didn't let up in most parts of the state until early 2012. It devastated 2 of Oklahoma's major agricultural industries, cattle and wheat. This year, drought didn't set in until early May, sparing the wheat.
Wheat crop was excellent this year, the best wheat I've ever raised in my life. We had 60, 70, and I heard of 80 bushel wheat. Never heard of that in Mays County. And basically, I think because of the dry winter that we had.
But this year, drought is once again taking a heavy toll on cattle. Scheffel's pastures are so dry, he's already feeding hay.
Right now, these cows here are eating a bale a day.
In 2011, drought conditions were so severe, many areas of the state had no hay crop at all. Scheffel's grateful he was able to bale some hay this year, but he's worried about using it this early.
We've got enough hay to make it through the winter, but if we could wait till winter to start, but starting feeding now, we're going to be in trouble.
Last year, drought forced ranchers that couldn't find or couldn't afford hay to sell off large portions of their herds.
Cattle last year was by far the worst hit, because coming into April there was no rain, there was no grass. There was no grass all year last year.
Along with grass or hay, cattle need water. Winter rains replenished many farm ponds, but now day after day of triple-digit temperatures is drying up those ponds.
Most of them are getting real close to what I would call the critical stage because of the mud and the quality of water. And then we've been having this northeast wind, which I've never seen in my life, with 100-degree temperatures and 40% humidity, sucking the water right out of them ponds. I mean, they're going down fast.
The drought is also pulling water out of Oklahoma's lakes and reservoirs.
Of course, with no inflow into the Grand River system to speak of, on a day like this, we're evaporating more water than we have coming in. So we've notified the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission of the drought.
Justin Alberti is with the Grand River Dam Authority. It operates Grand Lake.
Because of the drought, we are about a half a foot below normal.
That may not sound like much, but it has a big impact. At Pensacola Dam, the giant hydroelectric turbines are silent.
What would be ideal would be on a hot, dry day like this, was to be able to generate with hydropower, because it would be cheaper to do than using coal or gas.
Alberti says even though the turbines are still, customers don't have to worry about drought causing a power shortage.
In 2008, GRDA purchased 36% interest in the Redbud gas plant out by Luther, Oklahoma. So in years past, when we didn't have natural gas generation, a drought like this, hot and dry weather where we had no hydro generation to speak of, could really be bad for us.
The drought does have a negative effect on other lake operations.
Tourism can be impacted, especially as lake levels retreat, because docks may not be accessible to the water, boat ramps may be out of the water, swimming beaches may not be on the water's edge anymore.
In late summer, GRDA usually opens these floodgates wide to drop the lake's levels to even lower than they are right now. That's to create shallow mudflats around the shoreline where millet can be planted to benefit wildlife.
When you seed the millet, as the plants grow, they provide cover for the small fish to kind of hide under, nursing fish to kind of hide under, and then the plant itself would be food for the migratory waterfowl coming through. We feel with the drought conditions now, we need to maintain as much water as we have in the lake. We're already below normal, and for the water supplies, the cities that pull their water out of this lake for their water supply.
During past droughts, many communities pulling water from this and other reservoirs made intake pipes more flexible so they could be adjusted when lake levels fall. But that doesn't guarantee an unlimited supply of water for everyone during a drought. Don Hackler is with the Commerce Department.
Communities work very, very hard to always provide ample supplies of water to their industrial customers. Communities made sure there was available water by imposing mandatory rationing on citizens in the form of restrictions on watering of lawns and other what they consider non-essential uses of water.
However, that doesn't mean industry is completely shielded from drought effects.
Industries that will be impacted by continuing drought are industries that use a lot of water in their processes. For example, paper manufacturing, chemical processing, oil and gas extraction, especially if they're fracking to get the oil and gas, and also food processing.
We asked, does agriculture get the same consideration as industry?
It depends upon availability of water in the area. They try to balance the availability of water for agricultural uses and commercial uses because of the importance to not only the local area but also to the state as a whole.
But when all is said and done, the amount of water that's available for any user will depend on how long this drought lasts and how severe it becomes.
The temperatures play a big role in if the drought's going to continue to worsen, in addition to lack of rainfall. With the temperatures being so high, that increases the evaporation from the soils, and that has a big impact on especially plants and crops, as well as evaporations from lakes, farm ponds, etc. So the continuation of these hot temperatures without the rainfall can really exacerbate the drought conditions, and very rapidly they can deteriorate.